I used to love working nights. Nobody to talk to, no traffic. But one delivery changed that for good. I was doing delivery runs for a sandwich shop outside of town, mostly night shifts. I liked it that way. Quiet roads, no one breathing down your neck. I wasn't in it for the money, just needed something to keep me afloat while I figured things out. That night, I got a pretty normal order: turkey sub, soda, 2 cookies. Nothing that stood out. The address was what got me. It was a 25-minute drive north, outside city limits, right along the edge of old mining country. I'd been out that way a few times. There were barely any streetlights, just long stretches of road in thick pine trees on both sides. A lot of people out there were loners or retirees trying to get away from the world. I didn't think much of it. Punched the address into my phone and set off. About 20 minutes in, GPS had me turn off the main road and onto a gravel path. That's when the signal dropped, completely gone. I tapped the screen, but the map froze. It didn't matter. There was only one way to go. It was pitch black out there. Even my high beams barely reached more than 10 feet ahead. The trees looked like they were pressing in, like the world had shrunk around me. Eventually, I saw a mailbox on the right. No number on it, just rust and vines. Past it was a long, narrow driveway leading into nothing. But it felt like the kind of place someone who ordered a turkey sub would. Live, I drove up slowly. My tires crunched over the gravel, and all I could hear was my own engine in that. The air felt wrong, heavy, still. The house came into view all at once. Wasn't a cabin, not quite. More like an old, rotting farmhouse. 2 stories, the kind of place that looked abandoned until you noticed a porch light flickering behind a stained glass window. Parked and turned the engine off. The sudden silence felt too thick. I grabbed the bag, stepped out, and immediately regretted wearing just a hoodie. It was colder than I expected, but something else hit me harder. There was movement upstairs. I glanced up. A curtain had just shifted behind the left window, but no lights were on inside. Only that dim porch lamp that buzzed like it was dying. Still, I had a job to do. I stepped onto the porch. The boards creaked so loud I instinctively looked over my shoulder. Nothing behind me, but trees and blackness. I knocked once, then waited, then twice. Silence. I reached for my phone to check the number, but I remembered. No signal. Useless. I knocked one more time, louder. This time, I heard something from inside. Not footsteps, just a slow, dragging sound, like something being pulled across wood. I held the bag tighter. Then the door opened. Not all the way, just enough. The chain lock was still on, but through the narrow gap, I saw an eye, wide open, not blinking, not moving. Delivery. I managed to say. The eye didn't react. I tried again. I've got your food. The door closed. I stood there, frozen, unsure what I'd just seen. Was that a yes? I waited. Nothing. Then I heard something heavy drop on the floor inside. And then, footsteps. But they weren't moving away. They were moving upstairs. Slow, deliberate creaks on the steps, then more dragging. The door opened again. This time, all the way. No one was there. The hallway stretched out in front of me, dimly lit by a single bulb swinging from the ceiling. I could see the stairs, the living room, all empty. But something was off. The floor near the entrance was wet, a small puddle, dark and shiny. I stared at it for a second before setting the bag on the floor. Just as I turned to leave, I heard something fall from upstairs. A heavy thud followed by a loud scraping noise. Then the light above me flickered. Twice. I didn't wait for a third flicker. I stepped off the porch and got back in the car, started the engine. And that's when I saw him, standing just behind the tree line. Not on the property, across the road, partially hidden in the woods. A man, staring, straight at the house, not at me. I blinked, looked again, and he was gone. I didn't breathe until I'd driven all the way back into town. Later that night, I checked the receipt again, just to be sure. The name was scratched out. I called the number listed, and a woman answered. When I asked about the delivery, I used to live there, she said. But that puddle, the man in the woods, and sounded confused. She said no one at her house had ordered anything, that she lived alone. I told her the address I delivered to. There was a long pause. That house has been empty for years. I hung up without saying anything else. For 2 days, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing that eye behind the door. The worst part? 3 nights later, another order came through. Same sandwich, same soda, same address. I declined it, but someone else didn't. There's something about midnight deliveries that makes people open their doors to anything. I should have never stepped foot on that porch. I started working for a courier company after I got laid off my last job. Not food delivery. This was strictly packages. Medical, legal, tech, equipment, stuff that needed to be handed off directly to the recipient. No contactless. Drop-offs. It paid well, especially the overnight routes. That's what hooked me. Most people don't want to be driving through strange neighborhoods at 2 a.m. I didn't mind. I told myself it was peaceful. But peace can turn into isolating really fast. This happened on a Friday night, or technically early Saturday morning. 12:42 a dispatch sent a last-minute request. Small package, white envelope, no return address. It was marked confidential, which isn't too unusual. The system flagged it as a direct signature required delivery. Those are always strange at this hour. The address was a cul-de-sac off I-9, deep in a stretch of old developments that were half finished before the housing crash a decade ago. Lots of for sale signs, a couple overgrown. Yards and houses with tarps still over their roofs. I drove an old Crown Vic. Nothing fancy, but solid. I printed the label, loaded the envelope into my passenger seat, and headed out. The route itself was dead quiet. No cars, no lights. Just the kind of dim, flickering street lamps that make you feel like your vision's glitching. The house I pulled up to wasn't abandoned, but it looked close. Paint was peeling off the shutters. The porch light was flickering, but it was on. Parked in front and double-checked the package. It had a name. Martin Cesaire. Didn't ring any bells. I grabbed the envelope and walked up to the porch. The steps groaned under my weight. I remember thinking they were about to give. I stepped carefully and approached the door. No doorbell, just one of those old brass knockers. I hit it twice. No answer. Waited. Then again, 2 slow knocks. Still nothing. I was about to call dispatch to report a failed delivery when I heard the lock turn from the other side. Not the kind of loud bolt click you'd expect. This one sounded sticky, like the door hadn't been opened in a while. Then it cracked open. An old man stood there, late 60s, maybe early 70s, dressed in a maroon robe, white hair combed back, but greasy. His eyes were sunken really deep, the kind of face that doesn't blink often. "Package for Mr. Sayer," I said, holding it out. He didn't reach for it, just stared at me a few seconds too long. Then, without taking the envelope, he asked, "Did it arrive sealed?" I looked at the package. "Yes, sir." He Nodded. Good. You'll need to step inside. Sorry, I can't do that. Just need a signature. No, he said. They told me you'd come inside. I froze. They told him? I'm just here to deliver the envelope, sir. He smiled, not in a friendly way. The kind of smile people make when they know something you don't. I'll sign for it once you're in, he said, and opened the door wider. Any other night, I would have walked away. I should have. But something about the way he said it, ... I didn't feel threatened. I felt ... watched, like someone else was listening to the exchange. And not from the house. I stepped inside. The smell hit me first. Old wood, mildew. But under that, something sharp and metallic. Not quite blood, but close. The interior was dim. The walls were covered in black and white. Photographs, all of the same house, but at different points in time. Some outside, some inside. Some from angles that didn't make sense. No furniture, except a rocking chair and a side. Table with a candle. No lights on, just the flicker of that one candle and the orange porch glow. Behind me, he walked past and sat in the chair. Set it down, he said. I did. Sign here, I said, pulling out the handheld. He ignored it. Do you believe in inherited memories? He asked. I didn't answer. My father lived in this house, and his father, and before that, my great-grandfather. But none of them ever truly left. I shifted uncomfortably. Sir, I just need a signature, and I'll be on my way. He picked up the envelope, tore it open. Inside was a single Polaroid. He stared at it for a second. Then he began to weep, quietly, lips trembling, tears sliding down. I told them, he whispered. I told them not to send this one. I took a step back, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps upstairs, slow, barefoot, boards, creaking, but heavier than they should have been. He didn't react. I just kept crying, still holding the photo. I turned toward the door. Do you want to see it? He asked. No, I said, backing up. You should. You delivered it. I didn't respond. I stepped out, hit the porch, and didn't stop until I was in the car. When I looked back at the house, the second-floor window lit up. Not from a lamp, from something handheld. A flashlight? A figure stood in the glow. But it wasn't him. It was shorter, and facing the wrong way. The figure stood in profile, yet I could see its face, both eyes, both sides, as if it had no back of the head. I started the car and drove. Didn't look back. When I got to dispatch, I logged the delivery and wrote refused signature. Later that night, I scrolled through the news. That's when I saw it. A listing. Martin C. Sayer, deceased. Obituary posted 2 weeks ago. Died of a heart condition. Found in his home. Same street, same house number, same name. The receipt was printed fresh just hours before my shift. No flag, no warning. Which means someone sent a package to a dead man, and someone else answered the door. I quit the job the next week, but I still think about the photo. Whatever was in that envelope, whatever it showed him, made him cry like a child and say, I told them not to send this one. Don't know who they are, but someone knew I'd walk into that house, and someone else wanted me to. I used to deliver groceries at night. Not food, not packages, actual groceries. A new company, launched a few years ago, trying to capitalize on the convenience market. Think Uber Eats, but for entire supermarket hauls. Orders would get packed at a warehouse, and I'd just pick them up and drop them off. Simple. It was good money, especially on weekends when people didn't want to leave their houses. I never minded the long hours or the quiet roads, but I did start noticing something after a while. Most people didn't like opening the door after midnight, even when they were the ones who placed the order. This story happened on a Thursday night in October. It was cold. Not winter cold, but the kind that gets into your sleeves and makes everything feel damp. I had one more delivery before I could clock out, and it came through as I was finishing my second to last stop. The address was rural, not remote, just outside of what I'd call town. My app tagged it as a low confidence location, which usually meant the pin might be slightly off. I figured it'd just be down some side road or hidden behind a long driveway. The customer notes said, "Front porch, knock once, do not ring the doorbell. We'll meet you at the door." Creepy, sure, but I'd seen weirder. I picked up the order, just a couple of bags. Eggs, orange juice, bread, a bottle of some, imported water, and a box of instant noodles. It looked like a late-night craving order, or maybe someone who lived alone and was just stocking up. The drive out took about 25 minutes. There were fewer and fewer street lights the further I went, until I was on a stretch of two-lane road that curved gently through wooded hills. Houses were few and far between. When I turned onto the gravel road the app gave me, I slowed down to avoid kicking up too much dust. My headlights bounced along the trees, revealing almost nothing except branches and mist. Then I saw it, a small wooden mailbox nailed to a post, leaning sideways with the numbers 1185 scratched into the metal. The driveway wasn't paved. It looked more like two tire ruts through a patch of overgrown brush. The house came into view about halfway up. It was a single-story ranch style, but old, like 1960s old, dark wooden siding, a porch with a rocking chair, and a porch light that was either off or burnt out. I parked a few feet from the steps and double-checked the notes. Knock once. I turned off the engine, grabbed the bags, and walked up the steps. They creaked more than I expected. I got this weird feeling right then, like I was interrupting something. Not a noise, not a vision, just a pressure. Like walking into a room mid-conversation when no one wants you. There, still, I knocked. Once. Then I waited. About 10 seconds passed before the door creaked. Open. Slowly. No screen door. No chain lock. Just a single old wooden door that opened inward, revealing almost nothing behind. A man stepped into view. Mid-40s, pale, short-cropped hair, wire-frame glasses. He wore a dark gray sweater, but no shoes or socks. His feet were bare on the wood floors, and his eyes didn't quite meet mine. I gave the usual line. "Hi, groceries for Dennis?" He didn't answer, just opened the door a little wider and said, "Set them inside, please." I hesitated. We weren't supposed to enter homes, but technically, I hadn't stepped over the threshold. The bags were heavy, and it was cold, and I was tired. So I leaned forward and placed them just inside the doorway. That's when I noticed something. Behind him, the house was spotless, but weirdly empty. No furniture, no pictures. Just a hallway stretching to the back, and bare wooden floors that shined like they were polished daily, and no sound. Just stillness. He nodded once and began to close the door, then paused. "You delivered to this area before?" Not this far out. First time here." He nodded again. "Okay." The door shut. I turned to walk back down the steps, and that's when I heard it. A knock, not from the house, from my car. Subtle, hollow, like knuckles against a window. I froze. My car was 10 feet away. I could see both sides of it, but I couldn't see inside. The windows were fogged. I didn't move. Then I walked around slowly, keys clenched. No one. Back seats. Empty. Under the car, nothing. I got in, locked the doors, and started the engine. The headlights lit up the woods. And that's when I saw it. Something moved. Between the trees, fast, a pale shape, not bounding like a deer. It shifted. I blinked. It was gone. I backed out fast. No rear view. Just the road and my hands on the wheel. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A message from the app. Delivery incomplete. Signature required. That wasn't right. Groceries didn't need signatures. I tapped the message. The customer name had changed. It now read, pending acknowledgement. House 1185. No override. Never seen anything like it. I drove to the warehouse. By the time I arrived, the order had vanished from the queue. My supervisor showed me the board. Nothing. I went home early. That night, at 2:30 a.m., I woke up. One knock. Not the doorbell. Not repeated. Just one. I stared at my bedroom door. Waited. Then got up with a bat and crept to the living room. I peeked out. No one. Opened the door. Nothing. Except a receipt. Folded. I picked it up. The name read Dennis. The order, groceries delivered. Driver, Jared N. Status, acknowledged. No timestamp. No barcode. I locked everything. I didn't sleep. The next day, I deleted the app. Quit. Changed my number. I thought it was over. A month later, I got an envelope in the mail. No. Return address. Inside was a black and white photo. Grainy. Like a still from a security camera. It showed me, standing on Dennis's porch, holding the bags. But in the hallway behind him was something else. A tall shape. Too tall, too thin. Head blurred, mid-shake, and leaning forward, watching me. I burned the photo. I moved across the state, changed jobs, changed everything. Haven't heard anything since. But sometimes I still check the peephole, just in case, because I know what a single knock in the night means now. It means someone knows where you live, and they're waiting for you to open the door.